Hello, 7th graders. Yes, you are looking at the correct presentation. By the time your summer reading is due, you will be in 8th grade. The goals of summer reading are to help you keep your reading skills sharp over the summer and hopefully to help you find at least 2 books that you will love. Now, you don't need to memorize every detail about your book, but your teachers are hoping that you will be able to talk intelligently about these books come August. So for most of you by now, this is old hat, but just as a quick reminder, you do need to read 2 books by the end of the summer, 1 book from the list or by an author on the list, and 1 completely of your own free choice. Can that book be a book from the list? Of course. In the packet that you've received, there's a place for you to fill out a form. If you lose that, it's on the summer reading page on our school website. You need to return the signature slip to your teachers at the beginning of the school year. As a reminder, these books should be new to you, and we would prefer that you do not read a book that is made into a movie. The exception would be The Hobbit, because the Hobbit movies are really just Hobbit-flavored entertainment. They're not really based on the books. Now, we hope that this isn't the first time that you're hearing about ebooks at Hillview, but we do have over 400 electronic books that you can read over the summer, and we've tried to put as many of the summer reading books as we can on those in those collections. The first collection is our Follett collection. This is the little app that you will be using if you are using an Android or an iPad to access that. But do be aware that it's only available on iPads and tablets, not Android tablets, not on iPods, not on Kindles. You access that through the Destiny website, the library website, or through the Enlight app. Also, new this year, we are now subscribing to Overdrive. Overdrive is an ebook platform that you can use on any device, including your standalone Kindles. Directions on how to download books are available on the library website. You do need to know your Hillview library number, and you can come see us if you have any questions. We'd love to help you download these books. One thing that we do want to point out about the Overdrive ebooks is that we were able to create collections. This is the interface that you'll use when you download the books. And so there's collections on things like historical fiction, if you like Rick Riordan, but also down at the bottom, summer reading for incoming 7th graders and summer reading for incoming 8th graders. So that will be an easy way for you to be able to locate books that could count for your book from the list. And I would also like to point out that on the library website, which you can access through the school website, or hopefully some of you have made it an app on your iPads, you can also download under Reading and Summer Reading all of the papers and all of the handouts that you will need for summer reading. If you lose your list, if you lose your handouts, they're all on there. As well as over here, links to the Destiny Library catalog, links to Overdrive ebooks. You can also find that, as you'll see, under Reading ebooks. So now I'd like to talk about a bunch of the books on your list. The first one are 2 books by Kenneth Oppel. We're really excited to be presenting him on May 19th during open session. If your teacher isn't taking you, you can talk to us and see if it's possible for you to come. He is coming to promote his new book, The Boundless. Will Everett is excited to be part of the maiden voyage of The Boundless. It is a miles-long train traveling in the late 1800s. It's more like a traveling city than a train. Of course there are sleeping cars, but there's also gardens, a swimming pool, even a circus. Unfortunately, there is also a thief and a murderer, and because Will has seen all of this taking place, the murderer is now intent on killing him, and it will take his new circus friends to hide him and all of his ingenuity and adventurousness to be able to escape. Previous to The Boundless, one of my favorite books by Kenneth Oppel was This Dark Endeavor. It's from a series of his called The Young Victor Frankenstein. So before Victor Frankenstein was a mad scientist, he was just this moody teenage boy. He had a twin brother named Conrad, who was nicer, sweeter, smarter, more handsome, all of those things. Conrad also had a girlfriend, Elizabeth, one of their good friends, who Victor, guess what, was also in love with. But when Conrad gets sick, Elizabeth and Victor go to any length, even violating the laws of nature, trying out all kinds of weird science just to rescue him. And so you can begin to see how this moody but otherwise pretty normal young man might become the mad Victor Frankenstein. Another one of our favorite authors at Hillview is Neal Shusterman. You might have read Full Tilt in previous years for your summer reading. Well, this year, as an 8th grader, we're introducing you to the book Unwind, which is part of the Unwind dystology, a book of 4 at least. I'm assuming he's going to make more. In Unwind, you have to kind of imagine that it is somehow okay for parents or the government to take a teenager and use their body for organ donation. And it's not considered murder so long as every single part of the teenager is used and they continue to live on in what they call a divided state. I'm sure you can imagine how much teenagers love the idea of being unwound. The novel focuses on 3 teens, Connor, Risa, and Lev, who are all being unwound for different reasons. Connor takes Risa and Lev hostage as they try to escape their fate. And one of the creepiest books I've ever read, I have to tell you. That particular book is not on Overdrive, but the book Bruiser, which is one that I actually have to confess have not read by Neal Shusterman, but this is about a boy who has a gift. He is able to take the pain, the emotional pain, even the physical pain of others, and relieve them of it. But of course, he then has to experience all of this pain. And so the novel follows him and his best friend and his girlfriend, and the question is, how much pain is it acceptable for him to take from others? So if you haven't yet read The Maze Runner, this is your summer to do it. The Maze Runner is about a boy named Thomas who has no memory. He's a complete amnesiac, and he wakes up in this elevator, which puts him in this place called the Glade. It's kind of like a farm that all these boys live on, and they are surrounded by a maze. The walls to the maze close every day, and before that, the boys have to, some of them, they're called the runners, they go through the maze and they try to avoid the nasty creatures that live there and find a way out of their predicament. Thomas's arrival, though, changes things. Some of the boys have been there for about 2 years, but right after Thomas comes, so does a girl. And now the food that used to arrive every day isn't coming, so it becomes even more urgent for these boys to try to escape. The movie comes out September 19th, but of course you can't wait for that. You know you want to read the book first. Does your family have an emergency stash of food? How long do you think it would last for? A week? 2 weeks? A month? Well, Miranda's really hoping that her family's stash of food lasts a lot longer because the moon has been knocked closer to the earth, and that causes all kinds of problems, including volcanoes that fill the skies with ash, meaning that no more food is going to be produced for the foreseeable future on those farms. So Miranda and her family are struggling every day just to survive. This is a book that made me want to fill my garage with food, but it feels very real. Miranda's a real teen, just like you, living in a particularly normal house until this thing happens. And I have to say that I don't normally do this, but this is one of those books where about midway through, I read to the end. I just went straight to the end and had to know if Miranda survived, because honestly, I didn't see how it was going to happen. If you're willing to be freaked out like that, then I suggest you read Life as We Knew It. And as you can see, it is available on both of our ebook platforms. If you like Divergent and The Hunger Games and you haven't yet read Legend, then this is the book for you. The United States as we know them have become a legend, unheard of by most of the people living in what remains. Rival countries at permanent war. In what we would think of as the West Coast, the most legendary criminal is a young boy known as Day. Right now, he's just trying to get a cure for his family, who've contracted the latest plague to run through the slums. He's being hunted by June, the youngest agent in the Republic's army. June believes that Day killed someone very close to her, but as they get to know one another, they, of course, fall in love, and they also find out that the truth is stranger than legend. So if you've read Leviathan, you know that steampunk is that kind of retro-futuristic, sci-fi, timey-wimey novel. The Expeditioners is also in the steampunk vein. It's set in a future. What if all the maps were wrong? What if there were still places left to explore? Well, Xander Kitt and M.K. West are the sons of a famous explorer who is exploring those places, these new continents on the Earth. Unfortunately, he dies, and his reputation has been smeared. He's been labeled a traitor. He leaves his children half of a map, and they set out to find those new lands on the map and also to clear his name. This is a beautifully illustrated book. We do have it on Overdrive, but it is one that you might want to actually feel and be able to experience, get the full effect of all of the wonderful illustrations. And if you have read it, there is a sequel coming out in September. Ted is a teenager living in London. He is on the autistic spectrum. The way he explains it is that his brain works like a computer. He doesn't get along all that well with people. His sister Kat is the one who does. But one person that he does get along with and connect with is his cousin Salim. And Salim is visiting them, and he's going to be moving far away. And so they decide to take him on the London Eye. Now, they only have one ticket. The line is hugely long. Somebody offers them a ticket, and everyone tells Salim that he should go. Well, Ted and his sister, they watch Salim get onto the London Eye. The pod closes. It goes around and around. You know, it's that big Ferris wheel in the middle of London. And they watch as the pod comes to the ground and opens, and everyone comes out, but no Salim. And Salim doesn't come home that night. And as his parents and his aunt start really freaking out about what happened to Salim, Ted and Kat decide to use his computer-like brain and her skills with people to try to figure out what happened to his cousin before it's too late. Walter Dean Myers returns with a novel about two boys growing up in Harlem, best friends. Harlem, by the way, is an African-American enclave in New York City, which some people would call a slum. Darius is a writer. He doesn't get great grades, but he's really hoping that his gift for fiction will get him a scholarship to college. His best friend Twig is hoping to get a scholarship for being a track star. But the two of them have to contend with bullies and violence and all kinds of other struggles. This is a book that has been labeled gritty and street smart. I know that Walter Dean Myers is a perennial favorite. You might have read his book Monster. It was on last year's summer reading list. I do confess that even though we have many of his books on both of our ebook platforms, Darius and Twig is not available. But if he's an author who appeals, you might check out some of our other offerings, including some nonfiction that he's written. He's written all kinds of things, a biography of Malcolm X and stuff about the Harlem Hellfighters. He's kind of one of our rock stars in young adult literature. So if you were here at the beginning of the year, you probably read The Wednesday Wars, and you may remember Doug Switek. He was the skinny thug with a bully of a big brother. Well, just when he starts to feel like he belongs, his unstable dad moves the family upstate. And now he's living with his dad, his sort of put-upon mother, his abusive older brother, and another brother that I didn't know about when I read The Wednesday Wars is coming home from Vietnam War. He is scarred and in many ways a broken man. Doug is trying to make a place for himself and feel more comfortable. He's got a new friend, Lil Spicer. She's kind of a spitfire of a girl, and he befriends the librarian at the local library. Just like The Wednesday Wars, it is one of those books that is laugh out loud funny, but I found this one even more moving than The Wednesday Wars. I was finishing a section in the faculty room one day, and I burst into tears. Now, I'm not saying that you are as big of a wimp as I am, and you won't necessarily cry, but you probably will be moved by some of what happens to Doug. And again, reading this one, I was kind of wondering, so much bad stuff goes on in his life. Is he ever going to be okay, even just for now? And as you can see, available on both of our ebook platforms. Native American storyteller Joseph Bruchac has written a novel, so it's a novelization, but it's really about a real story. For 20 years, this was classified information, but during World War II, the United States Marines used Navajos to create a code, an unbreakable code, because their language was so distinct from any other language. Ned, as a boy, he was raised in a white boarding school, which forbid him to speak his language, but now the U.S. wants him, and he ends up in the South Pacific. It is a war novel, so there are some sort of unflinching depictions of war life, but it is put together in a really interesting, beautiful way by Joseph Bruchac, Native American storyteller. We all know that Hitler during World War II and the Nazis exterminated millions of people. What some people do not know is that Joseph Stalin in Russia did a very similar thing. The main character in this book is Lena, a 15-year-old, and she's taken in the middle of the night from her home in Lithuania. She's separated from her father, and she and her mother and her brother are loaded onto cattle cars where they are transported eventually to labor camps in Siberia. Now, there are no ovens here. No one is, well, some people are shot, but Lena and her family are not in danger of being shot immediately. But they are forced to work, and they are not fed very well. And if anyone gets sick, they are not fed at all. And if you can't eat, how can you live? And so it is a novel of a struggle for survival. It is fictional, but it is impeccably researched. People at authors' signings have told Ruta that they felt like this was a book like The Hunger Games. For me, it reminded me a little bit of Life as We Knew It. And again, with this one, I skipped to the ending to find out if Lena would survive because I really didn't see how it could happen. But despite that, it is a novel with that shows the love and the strength and even hope that some people can have in a bleak and unforgiving landscape. So the next time that I am struggling with technology and having a hard time getting my work done because my laptop is out of juice or I'm finding an app difficult to use, I will try to remember the story of William Kamkwamba. This is a true story of a boy growing up in Malawi as a farmer. He had to drop out of school because his family couldn't afford the tuition. There were no free schools where he lived. And he went to the library to try to keep up his education. He was a tinker, good with electronics. He found an old textbook about windmills, and he created, all on his own, a windmill out of scrap parts. You can see the picture over there of parts of a bicycle, some wood lumber that he found lying around. He created a windmill that was able to power his whole village with electricity so that people could charge their cell phones and get their stuff done. He is a success story. He attended Dartmouth, one of the Ivy Leagues in the United States. He was named, in 2013, he was named one of Time's 30 people under 30 changing the world. And if you want to hear the story of how he harnessed the wind to do all of these things, you should read his autobiography, which you can also find on Overdrive. So that's it. We invite you to come to the library if you have any questions about your summer reading at any time. Remember, all of the materials are available for you on the web, on our website. We are also hosting the book fair from May 20th to May 22nd. We have evening hours at Open House. All of the books that I've talked about today will be available at the book fair. You do not need to purchase them, but if you're the kind of person who would like to look at a book to try to decide if you want to read it, then you are more than welcome to come and browse only. But of course, you can purchase them also. It's totally up to you. I would love to have a conversation, and I'm sure Ms. Fox would as well, with you about your summer reading. So go get them. Good luck. Let us know what you need.